All right, welcome to Decoding the Bible. My name is Judson Powell. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, um, and so that we can get more viewers to get this teaching. Anyway, um, what I want to talk about today, and I know everybody's been like, "Well, coders and scripters," and people have been attacking me, of course, as usual. But I want to talk to you a lot about this whole thing about the codis and scriptors. Okay, first of all, um, when it came about, um, there's a older teacher who is now going on to be with the ancestors uh, by the name of Noble Drew Ali, and he was the leader uh, in the early 19th century of the Moors. All right, and so a lot of this teaching and a lot of this knowledge, that's where it comes from. All right, and then there were other teachers that came after him. The only thing is that Noble Drew Ali didn't write a lot of books. He wrote a lot of pamphlets. So, but it talks about this codis and scriptus. So let me explain what I mean. All right, and then this is also Dr. Williams, Dr. Walter Williams. I'm giving you references so you can go back and you can actually research this stuff for yourself, so that you won't just say, and these are African men, these are black men, these are not Caucasians. Now, one thing that I have to warn you and I have to caution you about is that whenever you go and you decide to research, if you decide to research any of this stuff, the first thing that you have to realize is that the Caucasian, the European, your colonizer, okay, he has rewritten the history. All right. And the main thing that you have to look at is, what is the timeline? All right. A lot of times, even a lot of these offshoot religions and things like that, they try to put the timeline incorrectly. Remember, by its own admission, the Bible is only 5,000 years old, or 6,000 at the most. All right, the Gospels, and we even have the Europeans dividing the timeline, into, at first, before Christ and then after Christ, and now they've changed that because people don't believe Christ. So now, what do they believe? They believe before the common era, okay, or error, okay. So, because of that, all right, you have to understand, because of that. So now you have a 2,000 year history of Christ, right? Okay, so we know 2,000, and since it's 2019, so 2019 years ago, that's when, according to history, the Christ was resurrected. Okay, so now, but according to whose history, and where did they get this history from? All right, so now that's why I say, just like any of y'all that watched the O.J. Simpson case, and one of the major things that they talked about, and in law, is the timeline. What is the timeline? When did this stuff take place, and how old is it? Okay, so now we know that, and this is according to carbon dating and according to water markings on the Sphinx, okay, that have been analyzed by many different scientists. All right, not just one, but I mean a bunch of scientists have analyzed the Sphinx over the years, and the Sphinx is estimated to be 50,000 years old. All right, so now just keep that in the back of your mind. The Mayan step pyramids and the portals, what they, because according to the Mayan writings and the Mayan calendar, um, these are portals. These are ways that they could get either to the underworld or into the atmosphere, right? So when we look at these things, we have to understand those pyramids, okay, have been estimated to be at least 40,000 years old. Okay, so now, and we know that their writings are a whole lot older than 5 or 6,000 years. Okay, so now that's why we have to put all of this in context. All right, now we know that the library at Alexandria in Egypt was burned. But how did the library get the name Alexandria? I mean, how did it become Alexandria? We know that Europeans, okay, Alexander, quote unquote, the Great, right, started to go to Egypt and try to, or Kemet, and try to, I'm going to use the word Egypt for this teaching, but look, tried to go there and try to invade, and that's where he got the Kemetic spirituality. Okay, but during that time, from the time that he came, Egypt was conquered by Europeans many times, over thousands of years. Okay, so that's how you get, so by the time they get to the point where they're able to get the scriptures, okay, according to Dr. Williams, what has happened in that particular time period, remember timeline, think time, all right, between the time that the first Europeans came to Kemet, came to Egypt, right? They started the priest, the Kemetic priests, the priests that were in Egypt, the Egyptian priests. All right, I want you to be clear, okay? They started to write down their spirituality and their spiritual science, okay, which includes, all right, and that's why they want to say it includes meditation, it includes different forms of what the Europeans redefined as witchcraft, but it's not witchcraft, it's just their spirituality. It also includes the chakras, the energy of chakras. Okay, it includes pretty much astro theology, astral projection. Many people believe, once again, even the Egyptian pyramids, that people believe that they were portals. That's why they buried people and they have burial chambers inside. And we also know that there are points inside of the pyramids that actually have altars which light up on certain astro-theological days of the year. Okay, not the fake holidays that we celebrate. And then the next thing is, and so all of these things were basically written down. So if you get the Egyptian Book of the Dead, unfortunately that's what we call it, but it's really the Egyptian Book of Coming Forth by Day. All right. And basically it explains these things, and it is pretty much the oldest text out there that's available, and you got to understand once again that all of this was designed, okay, in order so that the Europeans couldn't steal our knowledge and our science. Okay, so that's why the priests wrote all this stuff down. Okay, so now, after they wrote it down, once again, Egypt was invaded by Europeans. It was invaded by Babylonians. It was invaded several more times until, like I said, then all of a sudden, the library at Alexandria gets burned down. There are two theories. One theory is that all of it was destroyed and there was no information left. The other theory is, in fact, there are probably like three theories. The other theory is that the Europeans just burned the library down but stole the information. And then the other one is that, and they all could be feasible, don't get me wrong, except for maybe all of it being destroyed. But here's the thing. The final theory is that the Moors, our ancestors, Africans, black Africans, not took these scriptures, right, and took them and took them other places. Okay. And what happened was is that they took the scriptures and they encoded them. The Moors encoded them. Why? So that you couldn't understand them unless you knew the code. Okay. What the other thing is that you and so now everybody is like, oh well, this, that, and the other thing. You have to understand they also stole the Masonic order. So the order, the Masons, the order of what we have now, it's not what we created. Remember, the African, the Kemetic father and priest and brilliant man all around, Imhotep, right? So he invented this Masonic order. Okay, so then the Europeans decided that they were going to invent these Masonic orders. As time went on, they separated. There was one for the blacks, one for the whites. And here's the thing. It was mostly because of the Kemetic priest and the Kemetic Masonic order that's why they split up, because they wouldn't allow the Europeans into their orders. And so the original reason why the Masonic orders were split up was because the Africans did not allow the Europeans in. Okay. So as we go through that, so finally, and this is why everybody wants to beat you up, but the final thing is so that everything, all three Judeo-Christian religions are based upon the Kemetic priesthood and are based on the scriptures that those Kemetic priests wrote. All right. And you can go back and, because and if you go and you research this stuff, that's what I'm saying. They're always going to give, just like they give, Hippocrates credit for medicine, but we know that Imhotep is the father of modern medicine. When you become a doctor, you take the Hippocratic oath. It's a lie. Just like when I went to law school, the first year of law school, they teach you, the Socratic, they teach you the Socratic method or whatever, so you understand what I'm saying? So Socrates is given credit for this, but if you go and you really research, law came from who? From me, from Mayat. All right. Law did not come. Mayat is the founder and the purveyor of all law, because it was the original law. You cannot, and once again, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot invent something that's already been invented. You can improve on it. It's just like I used to tell people all the time. You can't invent the wheel, but maybe you can invent you can invent a better wheel. Like the tire. First you had like rubber tires, then you got steel belted radio tires, and you can improve on it, but the original discovery still belongs to the person that discovered it, right? So when you first get there, they teach you this Socratic method. Socrates, he was the this, that, the other thing, and then later on when you find out, it's like, no, that's not true. It was Mayat and Tahuti, really, because Tahuti was the one that actually carried out. He was the judge. Mayat was the weigher of the the weigher of the facts. The finder of facts, and then then they would. So that's where you get our legal system. You get the entire legal system from there, but then they start using, and see, this is what the Europeans did. So then they start using terminology like witchcraft, cults, pagan. That's another thing. Pagan. They use those words all the time. But the bottom line is not true, because what they did was they stole all the systems and then they labeled them evil so that we wouldn't use them and that we'd be scared to use them. But the bottom line is that they're not evil, they're not pagan, they're not any of that. and if they are, then they're just as evil and just as pagan as anybody else. All right, so don't get caught up in too much of the wording and all that. And then that's the next thing. So then the Moors. So let's bring it back to wording. So what the Moors did, the Moors decided, they said, okay, so we're going to put this in code. All right. And you have to understand also what is the origin of languages, alphabets, all of that. It's Kemet. The first alphabet, hieroglyphics, and all of those things, the papyrus and all of those things. There's no other system that dates back that's older than that. Now, there are civilizations that may be older, because some people will tell you, like if you really research, you'll find out that Nubia is probably an older civilization than Kemet. But the thing is, Kemet was the first civilization to record and document everything because they had a language and an alphabet. So even in that, even if you look at that, you're looking at the fact that alphabets and all of that began in Kemet. But even if you go back even further than Kemet, we find that Nubia was a even greater, I mean, they just didn't have it. They just didn't write everything down, and so we don't even know, what the extent of the greatness of Africa is, because we have an entire, we probably have thousands of years that are unrecorded, undocumented, right? So, but knowing the fact that the original, that the documentation started with us in Kemet, and knowing that all of that those civilizations existed, all right, Kush, Kemet, Ethiopia, and so now we've got this code, and this codus inscriptus. Okay, remember I was talking about the Masonic order. Okay, King James, when he wrote his version of the Bible, all right, they used the fact of the codus inscriptus. And this codus inscriptus was developed by the Moors. All right. It was not developed by Europeans. It was developed by the Moors, and they put it in the Bible so that nobody would be able to decipher the Bible unless they knew the code. And the only people that were able to know the code were what? Why does the president still get sworn in on a Masonic Bible? And why the code is the dictionary, and the code is what you learn in school. Why? Because they have taken it, and the white people now, or the Europeans now, have re-encoded it, right? So you can't possibly know what the Bible is saying unless you know the code. And of course, they're not going to teach you the code because they don't want you to know. And it's not a big, and like I said yesterday, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just that it's information they don't tell you and they don't share with you. They don't even share it. Look, they don't even share it with the Black Masons. Look, Farrakhan at the Million Man March, right? Back in the day, the first Million Man March, if you go back and listen to Farrakhan's speech, and Farrakhan, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about, in fact, at one point in his speech, he goes, why don't the white Masons hang out with the Black Masons and vice versa? Why did Prince Hall have to come up with his own, they had to come up with their own Masonic order, even though we invented the Masonic order, they had to come up with their own, and they still don't get all of the information. So when you're going through, and we know that we invented it, but they're not going to give you the code. And the codus inscriptus, that's how come I keep on saying that. It's like, look, when they, like the word God, generator, operator, destroyer. It's like, but everybody, and then if you go back, go look it up. Go look up the word God, and you find out that it is a word that came about later on, like thousands of years after the Kemetic priesthood. There was no word in the original languages or anything like that said God. They created it. It was made up. The same thing with man. And when you read the Bible, you have to think about what it is: master, able, and noble. And everybody else that was master, able, and noble, and everybody else was considered what? Nobody, nothing. That's really what happened. Okay, so they made their own code, which was what? Which was Webster. Webster was a high level Mason. And they sat up there and they created this. This is not and everybody and that's why Catholics have schools, they have universities, they have all of that. Why? So they can indoctrinate people into what they want them to know. That's why. So, and every time you go look something up, just like I can tell you, like there are certain things like Moses never existed. Noah never existed, right? And you can go and you can find the actual stories written in the papyrus and written on the walls of the temples. And the thing about it is the Kemetic priests were so intent on making sure that the credit for this stuff was always given to the Most High God, right? Amun-Ra, right? That they wrote this stuff and they wrote it down so many times and in so many places, and that's how come everybody keeps going, well, why did they destroy the temples, or why did they destroy the noses? Like if you go and you look and they say, because they don't want you to know about that big nose, right? the black man nose, right? Think about it. And every time they tried to, and the cross, even the cross, the Ankh and the cross is a symbol of death. It's not a symbol of life. There's nothing about life. And you can go back and you can research it and you can find out the cross is a symbol of death. And so when they wrote this Bible, they encoded it with all of this stuff that made you understand that, look, that you are not going to know the truth unless you know what we put in here. And so that's why I can confidently say, just like Dr. Williams, when he confidently said, he said, look, and he said there was never a man in human form that walked the face of the earth named Jesus Christ. There was never a man, Muhammad didn't exist. None of these people existed. David, all of these, I can show you in the papyrus where the writer of the Psalms, the writers of the Proverbs, the writers of the ecclesiastical documents, all of those people were from Kemet. They were Egyptians. They were black. They were not all of these people that wrote the people that wrote the Bible it was not, and then what's really funny is that like the Flavians, the Flavian documents and those things, those are the Gospels. That's where they took the Gospels from. There was no Gospels. They just made it, and all of the epistles were all written by Shakespeare and Sir Francis Bacon. Also what? High level witches, they want to talk about high level witches and demonologists. And that's how, and that's why Shakespeare is so famous. See, y'all don't understand. Y'all got to understand, look, just like the stuff works today, just like they put Jay-Z on a platter, on a pedestal, because he says and does certain things in order to carry out what? To carry out their New World Order plan. And all of this stuff. And so y'all believe that the stuff that's in there, the epistles, there is no Paul. And the thing about it is, look, the all of this stuff is 2,000 years old, right? But we got the actual bodies of the pharaohs and all of the people that actually, we have statues and pictures and everything, of all these people that actually wrote the Bible, that actually wrote the scriptures, that actually did it. And yet and still, and they're in museums. And look, the Europeans got it in the museums. Go to the British museums, or go to the Louvre, or go to, I posted a picture of Imhotep that's in the museum in Chicago. How'd it get there? And why is it there? Why is that important? Why is it there? See, start thinking, y'all. Start thinking and asking yourself, why does this stuff exist? Why is it even here? Why is it still here? And then we are so mixed up into the religion thing and into the Christianity thing. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are like the biggest hoax ever played on mankind. And all the books were written by our ancestors because we were forced to. And that's the other thing. Guess what, y'all? They couldn't write. So the original documents at the Hagia Sophia in Turkey, that's why we get all of these, Antioch and all of these different places that are talked about in the scriptures. That's not where this stuff happened. It happened on their watch. But they took the Moors and they made them, basically they made the Moors, write the Bible. Because they didn't have scribes. They didn't have anybody who could write. They didn't even have a language at first. And so that's why when people sit up there, they start going, oh yeah, shalom, brother, and blah, 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 blah. I just laugh at them because I'm like, bruh, if you only knew where that Hebrew and that Yiddish and all this stuff, and people talk about the Israelites and all this kind of stuff. Hey, y'all, guess what? It's just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said back in the day. Elijah Muhammad was trying to tell us, look, this Bible is the history of white folks. That's how come, in fact, and even he was deceived to an extent. Why? Because he didn't realize that even the Quran had been written, but he realized that the Quran was less corrupted than the Bible. Because the Bible had been written, rewritten, translated, encoded. It's been, I know of through my research that it has been encoded and rewritten and retranslated at least 10 times. All right. Just through what I know. And I'm not, that's not even my whole forte. All right. That's not really what my basic thing is, to put stuff out there so that people know truth. But so even in that, knowing the fact that all of these different things have been done to the scriptures over time, then we know that, first of all, that we wrote it, and second of all, our spirituality and our science. And that's why I say it's not just about spirituality. A lot of this is basic science, and it's the universal laws. Because if see, it wasn't until the whole white supremacy thing came around that all of this stuff started changing. The Muslims got to fight the Christians got to fight, the Jews got to fight all that, and so on and so forth. That's not what God is about. That's not what the Most High is about. The Most High basically created a spiritual system that is equal for everybody. And nobody is in charge, and nobody is really able to say, okay, well, we're the all this stuff about chosen people and all of that kind of stuff. No, people are people. People are all equal. And I know even a lot of black people don't like it when you say that, but it's true. Even a lot of African descendants. But look, we created it, but it was created so that everybody could live a life under the sun equally. And the reason why I say, George Clinton, everybody's got a little life under the sun, it was really deeper than what y'all really thought it was. It's like, so think about it. Everybody's got a little life under the sun. And everything, all of that, even the whole Jesus myth is based on what? The sun, Ra, the sun god. Now, your days of the week, the calendar, everything. But people want to sit up there, you're evil because you're worshiping, or you that's all made up to scare you and keep you away from the scientific fact of, that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west every single day. And if it doesn't, guess what? Nothing survives and nothing lives. Hit like, hit subscribe. I love you. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get to the Bible, to the scriptures one day. Anyway, I love y'all. Bye. Hit like, hit subscribe.